When people imagine working at an airport, they think of constant noise. They think of engines roaring, people rushing, carts squeaking, loudspeakers calling out destinations in different languages. They imagine it like a city that never sleeps. And maybe in the daytime, that is true. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, Suvarnabhumi Airport is not a city. It is a ghost town wrapped in glass and steel. That was my shift. Night supervisor, facilities and maintenance. I walked empty concourses that could fit a football field, and the only footsteps I heard were my own. I checked escalators that ran up and down, even when no passengers stood on them. I stood by baggage carousels that spun in silence, waiting for bags that never came. They built this airport on land the elders called Nong Ngu Hao, Cobra Swamp. Before the bulldozers, it was wetlands. Fishermen, rice farmers, and wanderers avoided it. They said the swamp never gave up what it swallowed. Old men whispered about lights floating above the marsh, about serpents longer than 3 men. Others said it was a burial place of those who drowned or disappeared. Most laughed off such stories, but no one lived there long. The soil was rich, but houses built near the swamp never lasted. I did not believe in curses then. I thought I was a practical man. My job was air conditioning units, fire alarms, elevators, and electrical grids. I believed in switches and wires, not ghosts. Yet the airport was heavy with something no tool could measure. The echo of silence was too loud. The shadows seemed too thick for the brightness of the fluorescent lights, and the eyes of the cleaners, guards, and baggage handlers carried something unspoken. Before the grand opening, monks came to bless the site. Thousands of workers gathered in white robes. I remember the chanting, the rhythm of drums, the smell of incense clouding the steel beams. They said the king himself would not come to inaugurate the airport until the rituals were done, because too many accidents had happened during construction. Men had fallen from scaffolds, machines had failed suddenly, fires had broken out in sealed areas. And in the middle of all that was the swamp, or rather, the memory of it. I sometimes thought the water had not gone away at all. It had only sunk deeper, waiting, patient, under the runways and halls. That night, my shift began as usual. I made my rounds through Concourse D, carrying my flashlight even though the lights glowed bright above. It was a habit. And habits are survival. I told myself the same thing every night. Nothing will happen. Nothing is here. It is just another building. But I already knew that was a lie. The baggage tunnels stretched beneath the main terminal, like veins under skin. They carried conveyor belts, wiring, pipes, and maintenance walkways. It was quiet there, too quiet. But I liked it better than the concourses. At least underground, I knew it was supposed to be empty. That night I walked past the rows of humming machines, the belts standing still. My flashlight beam cut through the gloom. I checked off items on my clipboard, pressure gauges, circuit breakers, fire safety valves. Routine. Always routine. Then I heard it. Footsteps, slow, dragging, heavy, just behind me. I turned, expecting to see a colleague. No one. I swept the flashlight across the tiles. That is when I saw it. A single footprint, bare, wet, pressed into the smooth tile. It glistened under my light. The toes splayed wide, the arch deep, like someone had stepped straight out of a swamp and into the airport. But there had been no rain for days. No water leak, no reason for mud or wet prints. I crouched, touched it. My fingers came away damp, smelling faintly of earth and stagnant water. A chill went through me. I told myself someone was playing a trick, a worker, maybe a cleaner, but my chest tightened all the same. As I stood again, the hum of the machine seemed louder. The air was heavier, and for the first time I thought I heard hissing, not loud, not clear, just a whisper of it, curling in the pipes. I told myself it was pressure in the lines. I forced myself to keep walking, but I could not shake the feeling that I was being followed. Back in the break room, I found 3 of the janitors sipping tea from plastic cups. They looked tired, their eyes heavy. One of them, a woman named Malie, stared at me with a sharp look. "You saw something," she said. I tried to laugh. "What makes you think that?" "Your face," she replied. "It is the same face we all had." She told me she once saw a woman in white walk into a restroom stall. When Mali went in to clean, the stall was empty. Another, a young man named Pong, leaned forward. I was on baggage duty. A bag moved by itself down the carousel. I thought maybe the belt switched on, but the machine was dead, no power. The third, an older guard, said nothing for a while. Then he spoke softly. "The cameras, sometimes they catch people walking on the runways, always alone, always at night. We send patrols. Nothing there." I sat quietly, sipping my own tea, listening. I wanted to dismiss them, but I remembered the footprint, the wet earth smell, and I remembered the monks, the way their chanting seemed desperate. Not routine. Like men trying to hold back a flood. It happened 2 weeks later. I was walking the far end of Concourse F, checking lighting systems. The concourse was closed for maintenance, so I was alone, or so I thought. Halfway down the corridor, my flashlight flickered. The overhead lights buzzed, then dimmed. That was when I saw her. She stood at the far end of the hall, a tall woman, her long hair clinging wet to her shoulders, her white dress dripping onto the polished floor. The water spread in small muddy puddles around her bare feet. She did not move. She only stared at me. My throat went dry. "Can I help you, miss?" The words felt stupid, small, swallowed by the silence. She tilted her head. Her lips moved, whispering something. I could not understand. The language was old, heavy, like echoes of a dialect I had never heard. I blinked and she was gone, but the puddles remained. The smell of wet soil filled my lungs, and I knew then that the swamp was not gone. It had a keeper. 1 month later, a power failure cut off part of the underground luggage tunnels. I was called to inspect. The emergency lights cast everything in a dull red glow. The silence was thicker than usual. As I walked, I felt it again. The weight of unseen eyes, the echo of footsteps. My flashlight beam caught something ahead, a shimmer. On the floor of the control room was a snakeskin, long, pale, stretched across the tiles, a cobra's skin, freshly shed. That was impossible. No snakes could survive here. The tunnels were sealed, sterilized, kept spotless. I bent down. The skin was real, the scales sharp, translucent, glistening faintly in the red light. A hiss echoed through the tunnel. I swung my light, heart pounding. Nothing, only shadows. I backed out, clutching the skin in my hand until I reached the stairwell. That night, I did not sleep. The next morning, I drove to a temple outside Lat Krabang. An old monk greeted me, his eyes calm but heavy. I told him what I had seen. The woman, The footprints, the snakeskin. He nodded slowly. This land remembers. Nong Ngu Hao was not empty. It was full of lives. Fishermen who drowned, travelers who never returned, animals that ruled the waters, spirits that guarded the balance. You filled it with concrete and glass, but the keepers remain. I asked what she wanted. She wants respect. She wants to be remembered. When the living build over the dead, they must pay respect. Otherwise, the keepers will not rest. The monk gave me a string bracelet, blessed with chants. He told me to carry it on my rounds. He warned me, do not follow if she calls. She can make halls twist, signs lie, doors open to nowhere. If you follow, you may walk until you vanish like so many before. I bowed, thanked him, and left, but his word stayed with me. It happened in September, the night the entire Concourse E lost power. They sent me alone to check before the electricians arrived. The halls were silent, the signs dark. My footsteps echoed too loudly. As I walked, the signs flickered to life. But instead of pointing toward exits, they pointed deeper into the concourse. Wrong directions. I tried to ignore them, but every path seemed to twist. I walked in circles, yet every turn led me farther away. That was when I saw her again. She stood in the center of the hall, but now water spread around her ankles, rippling across the tiles. Her dress floated slightly soaked. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Her voice came clearer this time. You built on my grave. Who will pay the fare? The words chilled me. My knees weakened. I fumbled for the bracelet, clutching it tight. She stepped closer. Water spread across the hall, cold, damp, impossible. I smelled earth, rot, and the musk of snakes. My heart raced. I whispered prayers the monk had taught me, and as I prayed, she began to fade. When I opened my eyes, the hall was dry again. Only a trail of muddy footprints remained, leading toward the real exit. I stumbled after them, my breath ragged. They guided me out, step by step, until I reached the main terminal, where the lights were normal, the air clean, the world real again. I never told my superiors. They would not have believed me. I never told my wife. She already worried too much. But I carried the memory, and I noticed things after. Travelers whispering about empty shuttles that carried unseen passengers. Baggage handlers swearing they saw bags wet with swamp water. Guards reviewing cameras that showed people walking where no one was. The airport is alive. It breathes. It remembers. And at night, when the lights dim, it belongs not to us, but to her, the keeper of Cobra Swamp. Even now, when I walk those halls, I feel her, watching, waiting, and I know one night she will call again.